Picture it, 2012. You're 9 years old. You're a bit on the small side for your age. You get made fun of at school. You might be kind of a lonely kid, you know? You're sitting on the living room couch with your family on a lazy October evening. Your dad's got the TV remote and is flipping through cable channels looking for something to watch when something catches your little eye. It's a movie you've heard about before but you've never seen. Intrigued, you say, "Wait a minute, go back." The movie's about half over. You're now watching a smallish 14-year-old boy talking to a big burly man. You think he might be the boy's father about breastplate hats and fighting dragons. Yeah, what an introduction. Next thing you know, you are swept into a world full of fantasy and humor and heart. Your little 9-year-old self is captivated. You've been bullied at school for the past couple of years. Your teachers have done little to help, no matter how often you've told them about the bullying. And your parents, though they've tried, can only do so much. You felt alone for quite a while. It seems like no one you know has had to deal with the things you've dealt with for what seems like your whole life. Did I mention you're still 9 years old? 3 years is a third of your lifetime. And then here comes this boy. This boy who's going through the same troubles as you are. Well, you know, maybe with some added dread of death by dragon fire or getting eaten and thrown in on the side. Thus begins the long, slow death of your social life as you become obsessed with this film and its world and characters. Okay, I'm kidding. Mostly. What is this movie, you ask? Did you read the title of the video? I think I put it in there. How to Train Your Dragon. You see, that little 9-year-old was me. I was that dragon-obsessed weirdo in my preteen and teen years. Not that I'm all that particularly proud to admit it. And since one of my many useless talents is being a walking niche interest encyclopedia, and by clicking on this video, you just turned my page to the weird dragon movie section, prepare yourself for some nostalgia vomit. This Iceberg will be covering the film franchise, television series, and book series. Each tier will descend further into a different topic. We'll be covering the basics in Tier 1, the Academy, and we'll dive further down, covering lore, obscure facts, and supplementary material as we plunge towards the depths of canon and conspiracy in the final tier, the Hidden World. As a friendly note, there will be a lot of spoilers for the films, television shows, and the books. If you're not interested in that, I recommend holding off on this video until you're caught up. So sit back, grab a snack, relax, clean your room, get on that treadmill, whatever it is you're wanting to do, and I hope you'll enjoy this video. Welcome, newbies, casual fans, and dragonites alike, to the How to Train Your Dragon Iceberg, created and covered by yours truly. Let's begin. Welcome to Berk. My name is Gracie, and I'll be your tour guide today. Just follow my lead, watch your step for dragon poo, and I promise you definitely won't get eaten or lose any limbs. Probably. Over here we have the dragon training arena. I know it doesn't look like much, but for a dragon killing arena turned training facility, I'd say it didn't turn out half bad. Oh, what's that, you ask? Oh, that'd be the tip of an iceberg. Let's go check it out. After you. I insist. The books. Let's start from the top, shall we? Where it all began. The How to Train Your Dragon film trilogy was based on a series of books with the same name, written by author Cressida Cowell. The How to Train Your Dragon book series spans 12 installments written over the span of 12 years, between 2003 and 2015. The books follow the misadventures of a young Viking named Hiccup, his small dragon Toothless, and his friends Kamikaze and Fishlegs, as they grow up. Hiccup is the son of the chief of Berk and heir to his tribe, the Hairy Hooligans. As the series progresses, he learns more about dragons and their relationship to humans, as well as his family's and tribe's past. The DreamWorks franchise varies greatly from the source material, to say the least. For one, the characters are much younger in the books, about 10 years old. Also, many characters from the films, like Astrid and Ruffnut, do not directly exist in the universe of the novels, and vice versa for some of the book characters like Kamikaze. More details about these differences will be found later on in the Iceberg. The first film was originally intended to much more closely resemble the books, but as development went on, the story took a different deviation. The movies. I'm going to place my bets rather heavily that you are watching this video because of this entry right here. The How to Train Your Dragon film trilogy first graced our memories in 2010, with the premiere installment that would kickstart DreamWorks' many contributions to the franchise, How to Train Your Dragon. The film's production began at DreamWorks Animation as early as 2004, and the film was released to theaters in the United States on March 26, 2010. The first How to Train Your Dragon is DreamWorks' highest-grossing film, apart from any entry into the Shrek franchise, and is the 5th highest-grossing animated film of 2010, placing 10th in the general film category for that year. As early as April of 2010, an announcement was made by DreamWorks to produce a sequel, and in 2014 we received one. How to Train Your Dragon 2 was released on June 13th of that year, at least here in the States. How to Train Your Dragon 3 was immediately put into development at the same time as How to Train Your Dragon 2, with the latter being purposefully written as a midpoint of the trilogy. Director Dean DeBlois has confirmed on several occasions in recent years that this was his intention for the franchise all along, and that he had stated to DreamWorks Animation that if he were to return for a sequel, then they would need to commit to a trilogy being the endgame of production. This threequel, now given the title of How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World, was originally set to release in June of 2016, though thanks to DreamWorks being thrown through distributor heck for several years, this release date was rescheduled a total of 5 times before settling on February 22nd, 2019 here in the US. If anyone watching this was part of the How to Train Your Dragon fandom at the time, you'll probably remember the anxiety and frustration that we all experienced as we were forced to sit on our hands and wait for the third film to finally be released. I was there, Gandalf. I was there 3,000 years ago. The Hidden World was a moderate success in terms of box office numbers, though not as close to the first sequel in monetary gain. The films as a whole have received a lot of acclaim for their strong writing, animation, and art direction, characters, and for their grounded and mature tone compared to many other kids' movies at the time. I personally feel that the first film is one of the finest animated films of our past decade, and maybe even of this millennium so far. The second film, in my opinion, lives up to the original in terms of its depth of story and tone, as well as its artistry. Honestly, the third movie, in my opinion, feels a bit rushed compared to the other two. Maybe its tumultuous production history had much to do with it. But the story, while impactful, felt a bit unfinished. The characters carried a harsh tone to them that just didn't feel right to me, and the villain, Grimmel the Grizzly, while threatening, was really one note and flat, and didn't really have the same depth of character that I know the How to Train Your Dragon franchise can deliver.
Oh, don't leave me here! My God! Help me!
But hey, I mean, I saw The Hidden World 3 times in theaters when it came out. I clearly liked it a lot, at least at the time. But maybe that's just because I was a loyalist to the franchise, I don't know. So who am I to judge? The TV series. DreamWorks Animation Television developed an animated series based on the first film, titled DreamWorks Dragons. The show first began airing on Cartoon Network in the United States in 2012, under the subtitle Riders of Berk. Another season of the show was released the following year in 2013, with the name changed to Defenders of Berk. In 2015, the rights to the series were transferred to Netflix, where a new series was released under the subtitle of Race to the Edge. Riders and Defenders chronicles the adventures of Hiccup, Toothless, and the rest of the Dragon Riders as they help the village of Berk adjust to sharing their home with its new scaly residents. The world of the first film, the only one released at the time of the first 2 seasons airing, is expanded upon, and new characters are added, such as Mildew, Trader Johann, Heather, Alvin the Treacherous, and Dagger the Deranged. Race to the Edge takes place in between Riders and Defenders and the second film, and it follows the Dragon Riders as they explore more distant lands, studying the dragons and sometimes the people that live there. Past characters are revisited, such as Heather and Dagger, but there are new characters and villains that are introduced as well, such as the Defenders of the Wing, Krogan, and Dragon Hunter brothers Vigo and Riker Grimborn, my personal favorites. As a side note, a preschool series was developed in partnership with Netflix, later moving to Peacock in 2019, subtitled Rescue Riders. This series does not star or really even feature any of the core cast from the original and is considered separate from the main franchise among most fans. Another quote-unquote sequel series was created for Peacock and Hulu by DreamWorks Television Animation in 2021, titled Dragons: The Nine Realms. which takes place approximately 1,300 years after the events of the main franchise. It has been almost universally panned by fans for its poor writing, character development, and animation compared to the original shows. That series is Bruno. We don't talk about it. Before we move on, I want to add some clarification here. The relationship of the three shows' subtitles kind of varies depending on who you ask. I know it's been kind of confusing the way that I have maybe explained it. The majority opinion is that the first two quote-unquote shows comprise the first two seasons of the overall show, while Race to the Edge is either considered the 3rd through 8th seasons of the show as a whole, or a spin-off, or sequel series to the original 2 seasons. For simplicity's sake, we will be breaking up the series thusly from this point going forward in this Iceberg. For writers and defenders, they will be referred to as the Cartoon Network or CN era, or by their shorthand titles if being discussed individually. Race to the Edge will either be named again by its full subtitle, or as the Netflix era. The shorts. There are a total of 5 short films released as a part of the franchise. These include Legend of the Bone Napper Dragon, 2010, Book of Dragons, 2011, Dragon's Gift of the Night Fury, 2011, Dragon's Dawn of the Dragon Racers, 2014, and How to Train Your Dragon Homecoming, 2019. Dragon classes. Each dragon in the franchise is separated into 7 distinct classes based on physical and behavioral characteristics. The 7 classes are Stoker, Sharp, Boulder, Mystery, Tracker, Tidal, and Strike. The franchise originally started with 7 classes, with the 7th being labeled Fear Class, but the current 7th class Tracker was added during the run of Race to the Edge, effectively replacing Fear Class. As a result of Fear Class's dissolvement, all Fear Class dragons were reclassified as Mystery Class. I like to think of the dragon classes sort of as dog breeds. You have groups like Working and Non-Sporting and things like that the various breeds are classified in based on characteristics. Examples in each class include Strike Class, Night Fury, Stoker Class, Monstrous Nightmare, Boulder Class, Kronkle, Tidal Class, Scaldron, Mystery Class, Changewing, Sharp Class, Speed Stinger, Tracker Class, Deadly Natter, Fear Class, former Hideous Sibbleback. Of course, the Hideous Sibbleback is now in Mystery Class. The Deadly Natter, which was originally classified as a Sharp Class dragon, was moved to Tracker Class once scent tracking was established as one of its traits. The Book of Dragons. The Book of Dragons, or the Dragon Manual as it is referred to in the first film, is the archive of knowledge that the characters learn from and add to over the course of the franchise. Much of the show's episodes include it as a plot point. Fishleg's Dragon Stats cards. Fitting in alongside the Book of Dragons, Fishlegs created a large assortment of stat cards for many different dragon breeds and classes. These cards are similar in nature to Pokemon cards, and are often used by Fishlegs and others such as Hiccup to recall specific dragons whenever the Book of Dragons is unavailable or inconvenient to use. The Dragon Eye. The Dragon Eye is a mechanical device that was discovered at the beginning of Dragon's Race to the Edge and serves as the series' MacGuffin of sorts. Upon exposure to light from different types of dragonfire, the Dragon Eye can project images, charts, and other information such as dragon stats and lore through lenses. It sort of looks like a telescope or a kaleidoscope. The Dragon Eye utilizes multiple interchangeable lenses that can be inserted like a cartridge, that each display information on a different breed of dragon or location. These lenses are discovered and decoded over the course of the series, and much of the series' action revolves around finding said lenses. The live-action film. So yes, there is going to be a live-action adaptation of How to Train Your Dragon, and I have feelings. As of writing this script, the film has not yet begun shooting, but it is set to be released in the summer of 2025. One of the original directors, Steen Deblaw, is set to return as the director of this adaptation, and a large chunk of the cast has been announced, including Mason Thames as Hiccup and Nico Parker as Astrid. Gerard Butler will also be reprising his role as Stoic the Vast. Hello. It's taken me a while to make this video, so as you are well aware of now, the live action is very much in post-production. Most of the cast has been announced, including Nick Frost as Gobber, and there have been 2 official trailers released as of this addendum, and the film has a release date now of June 13th in 2025 here in the States. As a little bit of a side note, that date will also mark exactly 11 years since How to Train Your Dragon 2 hit American theaters, so I kind of think that's cool. Well, fancy meeting you here. Congrats! You've passed the general knowledge section. Now it's time to get into the nitty-gritty, things like lore, production, and animation, with some fun facts and other things thrown in. Welcome to Flight Club. Rule number 1, there is no Flight Club. Get it? Like the episode that's parodying the movie? Oh, forget it. Let's get into tier 2. Character parallels between the books and the franchise. While the franchise varies greatly from its source material, it does share some similarities, namely in its characters. And while none of them are direct rips, there are some with whom parallels can be drawn. First up, Astrid Hofferson from the films, and Kamikaze of the Bog Burglar tribe from the books. Kamikaze is not a direct influence on Astrid's character, but it is almost universally agreed upon by fans and official sources alike that Astrid is a reworked version of Kamikaze. They're both blonde, they are both capable warriors, they both have hot tempers, and they both have a dragon named Stormfly. While most comparisons unfortunately tend to be surface deep like these, they are still valid. Plus, Cressida Cowell, the author of the books, who also served as a consultant on the film franchise, confirmed that these similarities are indeed legitimate. Another more developed set of comparisons could possibly be drawn between Dagger the Deranged from the TV series and Norbert the Nutjob from the books. Let's take a look at them side by side, shall we? Both of them have alliterative names, their fathers are both dearly departed, they're both insane, they've both been struck by lightning, which I did not remember that Dagger had been electrocuted until researching this video. Their weapons of choice are both axes, they're both chieftains of their respective tribes, Dagger and Berserker, and Norbert and Hysterica, and they both have similarly constructed helmets. So yeah, they have a lot in common. Other characters that have book counterparts include, in no particular order, Hiccup, Snotlout, Stoic, Gobber, Fishlegs, Tough Nut, not Rough Nut, just Tough Nut, Toothless, Hookfang, and Alvin the Treacherous. Hickstrid. Hickstrid is the official name of the romantic relationship between Hiccup and Astrid. The name had been used by fans for years, but was officially canonized during the run of the Netflix era of the show, where Snotlout uses it to describe their romance. Yaknog. Yaknog is a beverage, and I am stretching that definition to the uttermost here, that Astrid concocts during the holiday special Dragon's Gift of the Night Fury. It is a terrifyingly chunky and noxious brew that I can only imagine tastes like suffering itself. This moment in the short establishes a running gag throughout the rest of the franchise that Astrid is a terrible cook, but nobody has the heart to tell her. Toothless is the last of his kind. Toothless is the last Night Fury in existence, as established by the first series of the TV series and confirmed in the final film. The others either died off naturally or were exterminated by Grimwell the Grizzly or other dragon hunters. The Light Fury and Nightlights. The Light Fury is a counterpart breed to the Night Fury and is introduced in the third film. This entry primarily refers to the breed at large, as there are others seen during the scenes in the Hidden World, but we will also briefly cover the Light Fury that becomes Toothless's mate, since she is the only one that the story really focuses on. Light Furies have many of the same physical features and abilities that the Night Fury has. They're both sleek and fast in the air, as well as on land. They both have cat-like eyes and retractable teeth. They also both have the ability to disappear for a short time by camouflaging themselves with the aid of their plasma. We only have one example of this, but it is assumed that all Light Furies can probably trigger this reaction by flying into their own plasma blasts. As for Night Furies, again, since we only have one example in Toothless, it's hard to judge, but it is assumed that the breed as a whole was also able to cloak themselves by creating a plasmic reaction, possibly even triggering electricity as Toothless does to form around their bodies. Aside from their coloring, Light Furies are also different from their darker counterparts in many ways. While Night Furies tend to be more playful, maybe comparable to a Labrador Retriever, Light Furies appear to be more aloof and cat-like in their personalities. They're also more sleek and streamlined in their appearance. Even the males, from what little is seen in the Hidden World. Their cranial nubs, or ears, are shorter and more rounded, and their tail fins are a little bit more curved. The Nightlights are a hybrid breed of the Night and Light Furies. The ones seen at the end of the third film and How to Train Your Dragon Homecoming short are bred with a Night Fury sire and a Light Fury dame. Yes, I am using dog terms. I know dogs, okay? Their appearances are a mix of the two breeds, sharing traits of both and featuring scale patterns mixing the two breeds' distinct colorings. Dragons are allergic to eels. During the run of the CN era, it is established that most dragons are allergic to eels. In the Defenders episode The Eel Effect, Toothless bites off the head of an eel that is dragging Hiccup down to the floor of a pond. After the dragon consumes the eel, he begins to show signs of sickness, as well as hallucinations and delirium. Most other dragons, when exposed to eel through consuming it, have been established to develop similar symptoms, and parallels are drawn between the dragon's reaction and eel pox, a contagious disease for humans established in the same episode. While the majority of dragons react accordingly, there is one breed, the Typhoomerang, that can consume eels without sickness. Dragon root and dragon nip. Dragon root and dragon nip are two substances featured in the shows that are used to elicit a desired effect on dragons. Dragon nip makes them calm, similar to how catnip works, while dragon root is usually used to rile them up or knock them out. The latter is often seen employed by dragon hunters who tip their arrows and other weapons with a dragon root solution to render a dragon unconscious. Titan wing dragons. The Titan wing is considered the final stage in a dragon's life. The dragon will undergo a transformation, gaining immense strength, firepower, and an increased wingspan, hence the name. Think of it as the final evolution of a Pokemon. It works kind of the same way. Hiccup and Snotlout are cousins. In the book series, Hiccup and Snotlout are cousins. Their fathers are brothers. Okay, there's really not much to say about this one. It's pretty much what it says on the box, not much to add. The only thing I really want to mention is that while it's not officially canon to the DreamWorks franchise, it is almost universally accepted as so by fans. And it is probably the most prolific example of fanon, quote-unquote, that you can point to in the How to Train Your Dragon fandom. Valka's villain arc.
Wow, that is delicious. Finally, some good food.
At an earlier point in the development of the second film, Valka was intended to be the main antagonist. Her motives were to stem from her belief that dragons and humans aren't able to coexist. She would have felt betrayed that Hiccup wanted to make peace with dragons and would have been committed to protecting her sanctuary from human contact, even at the cost of her own son and husband. According to director Dean Deblaw, Valka would have been redeemed before the third installment and would ally herself with her son and the people of Berk to defend against Drago Bloodfist. Drago would have been a looming threat in the earlier draft of How to Train Your Dragon 2, but would not actually appear until the proposed third film, where he would be the big bad. The only remainder of this early version of Valka's character is her mysterious introduction, which would have been relatively the same in this previous draft. I really love the idea of a jaded Valka. I think it would have made How to Train Your Dragon 2 just a hair better, and that's saying something because I like the final version. Ultimately, I definitely feel it would have greatly improved the third film as well, and it would have given Valka a bit more depth as a character. I love the idea of her mind having to be changed, and Hiccup being the extra weight to tip the scales for her by proving that peace between dragons and humans is indeed possible. Also, I think that this concept would have improved Drago's character as well, and would have given him way more time to be developed. Really, from what I've read about this earlier draft, I am fully convinced that if it wasn't for studio meddling, we would have gotten a much more rich and impactful set of sequels. I love How to Train Your Dragon 2, don't get me wrong. Like I said before, it is on par with the original. But after doing this research for this video, I think this concept would have made the whole trilogy way better. Race to the Edge inconsistencies. Okay, I could really extend this entry to the entirety of the OG run of DreamWorks Dragons, but I'm going to talk specifically about the Netflix era, since the show almost directly butts up to the events of How to Train Your Dragon 2. First, Drago's insignia. Sure, it may not be used everywhere in the show, but it is used occasionally as a foreshadowing device with something to connect Race to the Edge's canon with the second films. I want to zoom in particularly on one appearance of it, a simple branding iron. Why a branding iron of all things? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let's take a look at Exhibit A, everyone's favorite dragon trapper turned dragon rider beefcake, Aerith, son of Eret. You see, Mr. Erickson here slacked off a little too much for his boss's liking and received a permanent reminder to not do that again. He showed off said reminder along with a peek of those rippling pectorals. to make a point to Hiccup and Astrid, right? We all remember that. Huh. That's weird. You see, Hiccup didn't seem to recall seeing that symbol before, which is odd, considering he, almost received the same brand to his face and had it potentially permanently disfigure him. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that would have been a very memorable moment, but perhaps he blocked that traumatic core memory from his mind forever. Yeah, that's gotta be it. But hey, I'm not a shrink. I don't know a lick about how memories work. I've just seen Inside Out a few too many times. I don't have a degree in psychology. Psychology majors, sound off in the comments. Correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know. By the way, don't worry. We'll be seeing more of Drago's insignia later. Hang tight for that. But for now, let's put this smoldering hot brand in water and let it cool off while we move on to our second topic in this entry. I'd like to take this time to mention our good friend, the Bewilderbeast. More specifically, Bewilderbeast's best buddy, Icebreath. I, for one, would figure that when our paleo Icebreath shows up again in How to Train Your Dragon 2, I'd ring a bell for our favorite Fishbone. Or maybe getting his head pounded into a thick sheet of it, WWE SmackDown style, by Johan. It's a spicy memory, too. Snotlout's girl era. Wow, that was a transition. Anyway.
Did you know that?
At a certain stage of production on the first film, Snotlout's character was suddenly and inexplicably changed into a girl. 'Cause I did. And
now you know!
And now you have to live with this curse. Just like me! You're very welcome! The Serpent's Heir / Dragonvine. Serpent's Heir and Dragonvine are the titles of two tie-in comic books published by Dark Horse. The two stories are connected, but can easily be read as standalones. This story takes place almost immediately after the events of How to Train Your Dragon 2, within days, probably. The Serpent's Heir is the first volume of this two-book series, having been released in February of 2017. In this comic, we are introduced to the mysterious island of Nepenthe and its inhabitants. I think I pronounced that right, I hope. Nepenthe's King Mikkel the Munificent sent his representative, royal advisor, Jafar-like vizier, his name is Calder, to Berk, to seek the counsel and assistance of Stoic the Vast. Word of the chief's death had not yet reached past Berk's shores, so Calder is surprised to hear of the transition of power from Stoic to his son. It was brand new. Hiccup and the gang are brought to Nepenthe, again, am I pronouncing that right? To investigate the earthquakes that have been frequently taking place on the island. During their investigation, they discover several surprises and find themselves much deeper into the rabbit hole than they ever anticipated. I know that was kind of a vague sum up, but I'm going to leave the rest a mystery for those who have not read it. It is a good comic. I recommend giving it a read. I actually went and bought a copy of it for this video. I bought a copy of this and Dragonvine, and I reread it for like the first time in 5 or 6 years, and you know what? I think they hold up. They're pretty good. Dragonvine is the second installment in this series. This story continues shortly after the events of The Serpent's Heir, and begins literally mid-fight. We, the readers, are again thrust into another mystery, or two mysteries, actually. I'm going to make this sound like a Scooby-Doo episode. For starters, silk spanners! Nasty, spider-like dragons. They give me Shelob from Lord of the Rings vibes. Ugh! Why are they suddenly so aggressive and attacking Hiccup and the other dragon riders? We don't know. And also, what is this invasive, poisonous vine that seems to be taking over the island and chasing away its inhabitants? Once again, I'm going to leave the rest for you to discover by reading the story if you haven't already. Speaking from personal experience, when I read these for the first time, I actually read Dragonvine first, because it was the only one that my library had. And I kind of prefer it, I'm not gonna lie. I prefer the character writing and dialogue, as well as the art in the second installment, just a bit above that in Serpent's Heir, but the stories are both equally interesting and entertaining. The art styles are just a bit different in each, enough that they both have a distinct look and design language, but they also can still fit together. And can I just... Leather jacket Hiccup, ladies and germs, bro's giving Indiana Jones, and I am here for it. The Fire Tides. The Fire Tides is the name of an unreleased / potentially cancelled third installment in the post How to Train Your Dragon 2 run of the comic series. I believe it was canceled during DreamWorks' buyout by NBC Universal, where several active projects at the time for DreamWorks were placed on the chopping block. Also, some production delays that happened during the productions of Serpent's Heir and Dragonvine probably cemented Firetide's fate to never see publication. To tell the truth, there's really not a lot known about this comic because a lot of it has been buried by NDAs and just general. Not much was released. Heck, it wasn't even finished, according to my research. While not much has been revealed about the plot, Richard Hamilton, a co-author on this series of comics, discussed a fair amount of it in an interview he had done on YouTube with commentator Audrey Greywind. Hey, so I know I've been linking a lot of my sources, or I've been citing a lot of my sources. I can't link right now, my YouTube channel won't let me. But I've been citing a lot of sources that are outside of the How to Train Your Dragon wiki, but I actually can't really add an actual reference for this one. It no longer exists. I tried looking it up recently on YouTube, and it appears to have been taken down. It doesn't show up in search results anymore, and it's not listed on Audrey Greywind's actual channel page. I don't know what happened to it, but I would assume it was taken down for copyright reasons. It might still be available on the Internet Archive. I'm not really sure. Honestly, to speak frankly, I wasn't really planning on linking it anyway, due to the excessive amount of profanity during the interview. In fact, I would say that about most of Audrey's videos. Not gonna not recommend her channel necessarily, but just understand she doesn't keep things PG. She uses a lot of language, a lot of innuendos, a lot of less than innuendos in some of her videos. And while some of her videos are very well thought out, I absolutely love her Hickstrid analysis. I don't feel good about referencing this as in like sending you to go find it because I like to keep my channel PG. I'm trying to keep it PG rated here, so I don't really feel good about adding it anyway. So even if I could link it, I wouldn't have. I would have cited it, just wouldn't have actually left a link. So yeah, sorry. It's no longer available anyway, so I apologize about that. Back to the show. The CN era tie-in comics. Okay, one last comic book entry, I promise this time. A series of comic books were released by Titan Comics from May 2014 to July of 2016. These comics take place in the universe of the CN era of the show, and it kind of feels like episodes in their own right. I actually wonder if they were adapted from scrapped episode scripts, although I don't have anything to confirm that suspicion. There are 8 comics in all, which were released individually, as well as in 2 book volume sets. These comics include Dragon Down, Dangers of the Deep, The Ice Castle, The Stowaway, The Legend of Ragnarok, Underworld, The Endless Night, and Snowmageddon. Can I just add how gorgeous and different the art styles for these comics actually are? They're way prettier than they need to be for tie-in comics to a DreamWorks television series that was based on a movie. While Serpent's Heir and Dragonvine really have a classic comic book-y vibe to their art direction, the CN era comics have this sort of quirky charm to them, and they feature several different artistic interpretations. My favorite was the Queen of the Hill one-shot included in The Legend of Ragnarok, and it focuses mostly on Astrid and Stormfly. The art is done in an almost watercolor-like style, and it is just, mwah, chef's kiss, stunning. It is simply done, but it's so pretty. Since I believe these comics are currently out of print, and if you would like to avoid the hassle of scouring sites like Amazon or eBay or your local public library system for copies, they are available on the Internet Archive. Unfortunately, I cannot link them. YouTube doesn't like me right now, and it's not letting me link things yet. My channel apparently isn't old enough, but they are available in the Internet Archive. You can search them by name, and they can be checked out from their free library with an account as of writing this script. How to Train Your Viking and The Day of the Dreader. How to Train Your Viking and The Day of the Dreader were 2 short stories written by Cressida Cowell and set in the universe of the books. They were both released on World Book Day in 2006 and 2012, respectively. How to Train Your Viking's premise is simple. It is a story told from Toothless's point of view, about a night fishing competition and the events that unfold concerning it. I love the idea of telling a story from a dragon's POV as opposed to a Viking's. 14-year-old fanfic-consuming me would have been drooling if she had known about it then. Interesting. The Day of the Dreader focuses on a dragon known as, funnily enough, the Dreader. The Dreader takes a look at the Isle of Berk and decides this looks like a good place to crash. I'll hang out here for a while. He then proceeds to settle in nicely on Berk's shores, driving the people to starvation. I won't say any more here. Again, go read it on your own. I highly recommend it, but it's a pretty fun read. I do suggest checking it out. I can see you're a glutton for adventure. Well, come on, follow me, let's keep going. Welcome to Dragon's Edge. In this tier, we'll be covering some of the lesser-known franchise elements, things like promos, tie-ins, and even a couple of theater productions. The Live Arena Spectacular. A live show was created in partnership with DreamWorks Animation and Global Creatures and toured Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and the US throughout 2012 and 2013. The show featured immensely detailed animatronic dragons that could walk using a motor, articulate expressions with the assistance of a backstage set of puppeteers, and fly on overhead tracks. The show had two main casts, one for the Australian and New Zealand end of the tour, and one for the US and Canada section. The story was an abridged and revised version of the first film, adapted specifically for the stage show. A behind-the-scenes featurette was shown with a special edition release of the first film, the Deluxe Dragon Collection, released onto DVD and Blu-ray, and bundled together with the film, Legend of the Bone Upper Dragon, Book of Dragons, and other promotional featurettes, such as How to Find Your Dragon. Fun fact, this is actually the release of the film that I own. I found out about the stage show through this release, and I was super disappointed to realize that it had already finished touring by the time I had heard of it. The Arena Spectacular was not the only live show produced using the How to Train Your Dragon IP. Oh no. There's more! We'll cover that later in the Iceberg, so stay tuned. It's coming. The pre-How to Train Your Dragon 2 era and its quirks. When it comes time to promote a film, one must consider the film's content. One must be careful to reel in the audience they want to see their movie without giving away the movie itself. However, this can achieve some contradictory and even humorous effects when the visuals used to promote the film don't exactly add up to what's in the film, or sometimes they can go completely against things we now know about the film because they weren't established yet. There's something just so pure and wholesome about early How to Train Your Dragon promotional renders. Gotta love that two-legged hiccup being used to promote the series well into 2013. And I've got a special place in my heart for the distinct Toothless and Night Fury merchandise. Like, who doesn't love the good old generic Night Fury?
I've seen things you've only seen in your nightmares.
Keep in mind, this was pre-How to Train Your Dragon 2, when Toothless being the last of his kind wasn't really established yet. Racing for the Gold. Racing for the Gold is a title of a series of promo shorts aired on television in February of 2010, during broadcasts of the Winter Olympics that year in Vancouver, Canada. Each short segment features characters participating in various winter sports or spoofs of said sports. There are 5 promos in all: snowboarding, bobsledding, speed skating, ski jumping, and medals. There was also a 6th promo that was produced for NBC to promote their Winter Olympics broadcasts. This one is titled Torch Relay. The series of shorts were made available on the DreamWorks TV, now Peacock Kids, YouTube channel, and were included, sans Torch Relay, in the 2012 Deluxe Dragon Collection home media re-release. Gobber's Training Secrets. Similar in nature to the Racing for the Gold shorts, Gobber's Training Secrets were a series of shorts made and aired in early 2010 to promote the upcoming release of the first How to Train Your Dragon film. These shorts were also included on the 2012 Deluxe Dragon Collection re-release. School of Dragons MMO. In 2013, DreamWorks, in partnership with Jumpstart, launched an online virtual world/MMO called School of Dragons. Over the years, School of Dragons grew quite a following, both from How to Train Your Dragon fans and virtual world enjoyers alike. The game featured 2 play modes, a limited free version and a premium subscription-based mode. Many basic elements of the gameplay were available in the free edition, but the bulk of the gameplay, such as events and special perks, were locked behind a paywall. The gameplay included dragon training, adventuring, quests, and participation in various special events, such as a holiday-themed Snoggletog overlay, the Thawfest games, as well as Dreadfall, themed around Halloween. On top of the virtual world elements, some educational activities were also featured. This was a game developed by Jumpstart, after all, an educational children's game developer. Most of the learning elements focused on basic science and math, and weren't really intrusive to the rest of the game, so if the educational side annoyed you, you were mostly free to ignore it. Though School of Dragons was officially shut down by Jumpstart in 2023, there are some fan projects in the works to revive it, namely Project Edge and Project Vanaheim. Both are still in various stages of development and programming, but they can be downloaded and played for testing as of writing this script. Dragon's Flight Academy VR Experience. Dragon's Flight Academy was a virtual reality immersive experience developed in partnership with Dreamscape that was made available for participation in December of 2019. The game could be played by up to 8 people and was set up at Dreamscape's Westfield Century City location in Los Angeles, California. I'm going to let this official summary tell you what it was about. Far to the north on the Isle of Berk, Vikings and dragons live together in playful harmony. Only poachers pose a constant threat to this idyllic world. This is where you come in. Enlist in the Dragon's Flight Academy and help pick up an Astrid, rescue the village from invaders. Just be ready. One roar from Toothless is all it takes to send you and your dragon soaring off to the hidden world on a rescue mission, where danger and peril lurk behind every rock and cavern. Find out if you have the courage and fire it takes to save the day and earn your dragon wings. How to Train Your Dragon on Ice. Remember when I said that the Arena Spectacular wouldn't be the only time DreamWorks used the How to Train Your Dragon IP for a live stage show? Well, we're back! I have not felt such fear in a long time.
And I never want to see it again.
How to Train Your Dragon on Ice was a live show created in partnership with Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines as onboard entertainment for passengers of their ship, Allure of the Sea. This ship was the only one in Royal Caribbean's fleet at the time with an ice rink on board. So they figured, man, we gotta do something with this thing to make more money. And boy, oh boy, did they do something! That's for sure! The production ran for about 25 minutes and was performed for passengers on board the Allure of the Sea throughout 2014. I'm not sure if the show ran much past this year, but it is no longer being performed on her ice rink as of the making of this video. As you can probably tell from the various pictures I've shown, the costumes for this show consist of a mixture of traditional live show wardrobe and full-body character suits, akin to walk-arounds at a park like Disneyland or Universal Studios. Honestly, as cursed as some of these costumes are, like Stoic's dead-eyed stare, and Goofy looking as uncomfortable as I feel right now, these character suits actually appear to be very well designed. I was surprised at all the details I found while doing my research for this entry. I really love the shields in this picture. They all look so fun. Also, the guy in the back here puppeteering the Zippleback gives me life. From what I can find, unfortunately, not a lot of real footage exists online of this ice show. The only material I was able to dig up were a few stills taken for what appears to be promotional purposes. And there's only a small amount of footage available in better quality than pee-pee poo-poo potato recordings. Quality recordings I was able to find were all uploaded by the same YouTube channel, Alex Murphy. I looked a little bit deeper into this channel and found out that all of the footage was of the uploader herself. She performed as Astrid and apparently was no stranger to the Allure of the Sea's ice rink. She was a performer in multiple productions for Royal Caribbean, including How to Train Your Dragon on Ice. I looked her up and she has a really cool story as a performer and also as a stroke survivor. She also has a pretty solid social media presence. If you're interested, you can find her out here on YouTube and over on Instagram at Ali Murph. Epic Universe's Isle of Berk attraction at Universal Studios Orlando. In August of 2019, Universal Studios Orlando announced their plans for a sister park to the existing Orlando Resort and Islands of Adventure park titled Epic Universe. This new theme park would feature attractions such as an extension of the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, an American version of Universal Japan's Super Nintendo World, which I am also extremely excited about, a section dedicated to the classic Universal monster franchises, like The Invisible Man, Wolfman, Mummy, etc., titled Dark Universe, and, more relevant to this video, a fully immersive Dragons-themed world, titled How to Train Your Dragon, Isle of Berk. Isle of Berk features many themed attractions, including 3 rides, Dragon Racers Rally, Fire Drill, that's fire with a Y, and Hiccup's Wing Gliders, as well as an adaptation of a live attraction from Universal Studios Beijing, titled The Untrainable Dragon. Also featured are several food vendors and a Hiccup and Toothless meet and greet at the Paddock. Ha! I'm really surprised it took DreamWorks this long to create a How to Train Your Dragon themed attraction on this scale here in the United States. There have been some other theme park attractions internationally, such as Universal Beijing's original Untrainable live show, as well as some smaller scale things stateside, like some themed rides at the American Dream Mall in New Jersey, but there had yet to be a full-on immersive world created for the franchise until now here in the US. And I am so unbelievably glad that this exists. I hope someday, if I can save up enough money, I'm gonna go visit Epic Universe. Heal my inner child by getting to meet Mario, Luigi, and Princess Peach at Super Nintendo World, go fight the mummy at Dark Universe. Maybe I'll run into Eevee and O'Connell. Then fulfill my preteen dreams of visiting the Isle of Berk and getting to pet Toothless. Rise of Berk and Titan Uprising. Rise of Berk is a mobile game released by DreamWorks and Ludia for iOS and Android in 2014. It's mainly a simulator game, focusing on building and maintaining the Isle of Berk and training dragons. Pretty straightforward. I actually played this one briefly in 2015, and it kind of reminded me of the GameLoft mobile port of the Oregon Trail, which I played so often as a kid and preteen. A lot of city building, material collecting, buying, selling, trading, that kind of stuff. Titan Uprising, also developed by Ludia in partnership with DreamWorks, was released also on the same platforms in 2019. It's a puzzle game with RPG elements, with gameplay focused on matching rune stones, sort of Candy Crush style, and battling dragons. Your gameplay on the puzzle end affects your dragon/league's effectiveness on the opponents you're facing off against. So yeah, it's basically like Candy Crush, but with an RPG battle/Pokemon trainer mechanics stapled onto it. A small deviation about Titan Uprising, but as I was doing the research on it I needed for this video, I found this super fun trivia entry on the How to Train Your Dragon wiki. Apparently there was an Easter egg added into the game's files by the development staff. A card icon/description of a goofy toothless illustration titled Dragon with an I. And, well, I'm gonna let the description on the wiki speak for itself. There is no dragon more powerful than Dragon. It is a secret he even exists. Only those initiated into the sacred mysteries of the god he have the skills to see him in his glory. All others simply turn their faces away, unbelieving in the evidence of their eyes, so that they assume he is a fever dream or an hallucination. It is with this veil of unreality that Dragon clothes himself. Being and non-being are not so different from each other to Dragon. He's the heart of nature, born from the core of a star. Dragon breathes pure spirit, channeling the elements of nature through his spiritual body to make the pictures all other forms take their inspiration from. No other dragon could come into being without owing a debt of gratitude to Dragon. He's the template, the original, the mold from which all others are cut. Nothing is known about what he is capable of. We could speculate, if we even knew of his existence. Dragon is everything and everywhere. There is no end to his love. It is infinite. How to Train Your Dragon, the video game. I want to mention the tie-in console game specifically because I have a much more personal connection to it than I do some of the others. I played the Wii port of this game quite a bit when I was a youngling. Oh, to be a 7th gen console rendered hiccup, wandering around Berk, chasing chickens, annoying your father by making his dialogue run in a loop until he's stuck saying, "There's a hole in my boot," every time you make him speak. Sticking your potato-shaped nose in the air and pretending you're Superman, after making sure nobody's watching, of course. How to Train Your Dragon, the video game, was developed by Activision in partnership with DreamWorks and released 3 days before the movie, at least here in the US, on March 23rd, 2010. The game was available for the Wii, Xbox 360, PS3, and Nintendo DS. The gameplay for the Wii, Xbox, and PlayStation featured 2 modes. The first choice was a story mode, wherein you would run around a mostly open-world Isle of Berk, gather items to level up your dragons, interact with the villagers, complete side quests, and train dragons to face off in the Thursday tournament. The second was a battle mode. I believe it was referred to as arena or arcade mode, I can't remember, where you simply, well, battled dragons. It was kind of like Street Fighter, but with scaly lizards instead of underdressed, overbulked anime characters. And with less blood. By the way, the Night Fury's button combos, at least here on the Wii version, were so terribly rigged. If you timed your hits right while playing as a Night Fury and you spammed the A button on the Wiimote, you would absolutely dominate. It was a slaughter. I remember making one of my friends really mad one time because I kept using that on her and she'd never played the game before, so she got kind of upset with me for continually dominating the rounds. So I had to stop. I went easy on her. I'm sorry, Rebecca. The DS port is a little different given the handheld's limitations. Judging from the gameplay I was able to find, this iteration of the game places more focus on following the main story, as well as the gathering of resources and on dragon training, rather than exploring. The dragons battle each other in a Pokemon-esque turn-based style. How to Train Your Dragon: The Journey. How to Train Your Dragon: The Journey is a mobile game developed by Tomorrowland in partnership with DreamWorks Animation. It is a simulation/breeding game that features an anime-inspired art style. Oh, this is so gorgeous! Oh my word! Journey is possibly a China exclusive, at least as a test market. Tomorrowland is a Chinese developer, and all of the screenshots/first-hand info that had been released for its promotion had been released solely in Chinese. It's possible and honestly probable that it will be released to other markets in the future, but it's unknown as to when or in which languages or countries. Mystery of the Dragon Eye. Mystery of the Dragon Eye was a direct-to-DVD TV movie released in 2016. This DVD was the first instance of Race to the Edge being pressed onto a physical home media format. The series would later receive 3 two-season volume sets on DVD in 2018 and 2019. The direct-to-video special compiles 3 early episodes from Season 1 of the Netflix era, Dragon Eye of the Beholder Parts 1 and 2, and When Darkness Falls. Some clips from Imperfect Harmony were also used to stitch the story together more smoothly. The episodes are strung together similarly to the 90s direct-to-video Disney sequels and tie-ins, like The Return of Jafar or Buzz Lightyear of Star Command: The Adventure Begins. The DVD also includes 3 bonus episodes, also from Season 1, presented as non-spoilery standalones in the bonus features of the disc: Quake, Rattle, and Roll, Gone Gustav Gone, and The Next Big Sting. Well, folks, this is it. We have officially entered the depths of the iceberg. Welcome, friends, Vikings, countrymen, to the hidden world. There's only one entry on this tier, but it's chock full of juicy deeds. This is where we separate the casual enjoyers from the diehards. Do you like conspiracies? Good. A fair warning, this is truly the point of no return. If you've managed to avoid spoilers by now, you will not be able to avoid them here. If you would still like to see the films and/or series untainted by foreknowledge of events and characters, please click off now or jump to the next timestamp, which will be displayed on screen. Anyone still here? Fabulous. Let's get cracking. Every villain and antagonist is connected. Alright, let me just get my conspiracy board out here. Let me explain. When I was deep in the trenches of this fandom years ago, and I was watching the movies and TV series much more frequently than I do now, I began to notice a pattern. All of the villains are connected to each other. Don't believe me? I'll prove it. Now, this may look like a whole bunch of nonsense to you, but I promise it will make sense. Hopefully. But first, let me insert just 2 caveats here. 1, this only pertains to the TV series and movies. We are not going to worry about School of Dragons or the comics. I have little to no frame of reference concerning those, and I'm not going to lose any more brain cells on this project than I already have. Secondly, I'm not counting the Red Death. The Red Death is a dragon who acted solely on animal instinct and traveled in its own circle. It's more of an environmental threat, in my opinion, so because of that, I don't feel like it has any bearing on the villains at large, and I don't think we can even classify it as a true villain. I am totally open to the possibility of being wrong about that, but if anybody feels differently, please feel free to sound off in the comments. Politely, of course, or I'd cry. I give you our rogues gallery. Alright, now that we've got our gloves on, let's start sorting through the trash. Let's begin with Riders and Defenders. Starting off, we have Alvin the Treacherous. Chief of the Outcasts, right? Love him or hate him. He's the OG DreamWorks Dragons baddie. Alvin brings with him his henchman? Heavy? I don't know, it's savage. I have no clue what the man's job description is. Mr. the Treacherous eventually allies himself with my spirit animal, Dagger the Deranged. Our favorite Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs Berserker Chief. Savage later transfers loyalties from the Outcasts to the Berserkers and becomes Dagger's sniveling little lackey. So right now, we have Alvin, Dagger, and Savage, all connected. Alvin was the mastermind, Dagger his knife, or knives, I suppose, and Savage was just kind of along for the ride. Are you following me so far? Good. Let's move on to Race to the Edge. Dagger returns, bigger, badder, and madder. He's been cooped up in a jail cell for 3 years, and he's been jonesing for some good havoc wreaking all that time. He's really our main threat for most of Season 1. With him comes Heather. We have met her previously in the CN era, where she attempts to trick the Riders of Berk and steal the Book of Dragons from them to give to Alvin the Treacherous in exchange for her adoptive parents. Over the next 3 years, Heather searches for Dagger, who she blames for the death of her parents and the destruction of her village. She later discovers that Dagger is her biological brother, adding another wrinkle into her story. For a time, she aligns with her brother, and later the Grimborns, at least outwardly. However, she hasn't actually sold her soul to the dark side, later revealing to the Dragon Riders that she's been working undercover as a double agent and informant, slipping them intel on the hunters through Astrid, her liaison and friend. Next up on our roster, we have Riker Grimborn. Riker's a nasty, brutish dragon hunter thug with a taste for blood and a bad attitude. He likes to act like he's in control, but that's not really the case. Enter his younger brother, Viggo Grimborn. Viggo is the brains to Riker's brawn. He's the leader of the Dragon Hunters operation, he calls the shots, he's an expert on which moves to make. Viggo is probably one of the best psychological antagonists in this entire franchise, if not the very best. He gets inside of Hiccup's head so well that he drives him to obsession and nearly breaks him. No other villain in the series can say that, not even someone like Grimmel, which we will be discussing shortly. But Viggo's not the big kahuna. Oh no. No, he's just a supplier. He's simply in the business to make money. Dragons are his merchandise, and he doesn't really give a flying rip about who he sells his merchandise to or what their intentions are. One such buyer placed a heavy investment into Viggo's operation, and he sent one of his own to quote-unquote check on things. Make sure the Grimborn brothers were operating in the black, so to speak. Let's give a warm Berkean welcome to Krogan, ladies and germs! Krogan comes in under the disguise of a mysterious masked buyer at a Dragon Hunters auction. He later plays more of a role as an active threat, though his origins are still unknown by most, specifically the Riders of Dragon's Edge. Now we've got one more DreamWorks Dragons maniac to cover. Drumroll please, you know him, you hate him, introducing the crafty, the sneaky, the twisted, the sadistic, traitor Johan! I'm just gonna park right here for a moment, because I've got a lot to say about Johan. He is the only true twist villain present in How to Train Your Dragon, at least in the main part of the franchise. He's been a consistent presence, and often punchline of a joke, since as early as Riders of Berk, hiding his true colors under the persona of a bumbling merchant with a penchant for fish stories. In actuality, he's been pulling the writer's strings for years. He's played Hiccup like a violin, facilitated Dagger's prison break, and otherwise lied, cheated, and even killed his way through the ranks to become the Dragon Hunter's evil finger-drumming overlord. The traitor, or should I say, traitor. I know, so original. Has it out for the writers since almost day one, vowing to stick it to them for the way that he was treated all that time. I have to speak frankly here, he kind of has a point in that regard. The writers, especially Snotlout and the twins, but even Hiccup too, have all treated him terribly in one way or another, whether by insulting him behind his back or to his face, brushing him off, shutting him up, or just straight up leaving him on a tiny island alone in the middle of nowhere.
Release me! Release me!
There's plenty of past interactions that he could have pulled from to possibly try to justify his actions. Now, is bashing a teenager's head into a sheet of ice and trying to stab him in the chest with a lance a healthy way to deal with toxic people? No. No, it's not, Johann. So is Johann right? No. No, he's not.
Stop it. Get some help.
I just want to clarify that, in case anybody thinks I'm defending him in any way. I'm not. But I can understand why he's distressed. TLDR, Johann is a nasty little sucker. At the end of the Netflix run of the show, Krogan's big boss, and by extension everyone else's, is revealed to be the towering, imposing, and extremely unreasonable screaming banshee himself, Drago Bloodfist, the first proper villain of the film trilogy. Drago's been biding his time throughout the run of Race to the Edge. He's one of the Grimborn's loyal buyers, and he's revealed at the end of the series, issuing a severe punishment to Krogan for failing him. Of course, Krogan's not alone. He's just one of many who serve the madman. If you look closely here, you'll see one more, up there in the rafters. Do you see him? Does this old man look familiar? He should. He's been around since day one of Riders. Let's give a round of applause for Mr. Hey You Kids, Get Your Dragons Off My Lawn. It's Mildew, everybody! Crotchety Old Man of the Year! Yay! And lastly, we are brought to our final degenerate, Grimmel the Grizzly. Now you might be asking, isn't Grimmel kind of a lone wolf? Ah, but you see, that is where I must correct you, my young apprentice. You see, I can offer you two possible connections that Grimmel might have to the rest. The first, and most obvious, Eret. Eret knew who he was, and it was implied he had even crossed paths with the Night Fury killer a time or two. And of course, this was probably from Eret's dragon hunting days, when he would have been employed by Drago, possibly at the same time Krogan was. This would give Grimmel a connection to the other villains, but only a passing one. This could only count as a technicality. But what if I told you that there could be a more direct connection? I want to direct your attention to a detail of Drago's attire. Do you see that dragon skin cape thing he wears? That suspiciously black dragon skin cape? Gee, that looks an awful lot like Night Fury scales, doesn't it? And while it would be no stretch to assume that Drago acquired it directly from the source, I mean, the man has no qualms with killing, mind you, I personally feel it's unlikely that he was the one that slayed the dragon. Drago's interest in the creatures was not one of decimation, but of enslavement. He wanted to build a dragon army. That's why he bought off people like Eret, the Grimborn brothers, and so on. He didn't want to kill these dragons so much as he wanted to accumulate them. He wanted a big, strong army, and there's strength in numbers, so it would make the most sense that he would want to grab as many dragons as he could. Alive. Now let's get back to Grimmel. My theory is that Drago perhaps found Mr. Grizzly here through one attack or another and made a pact with him. Grimmel would bring him dragons for his army, no problem. But he got to keep the Night Furies. Any and all of them, no exceptions. And perhaps to seal this deal, there may have been a gift given an extension of peace, or more realistically as a bribe. That's what I think Drago's cloak is. A token of agreement between two dracocidal maniacs. And yes, I just made up a word, but I like it, so I'm keeping it. Conspiracy theories aside, however, there is an actual connection that Grimmel has to Drago, though it's less mysterious than my idea, which means it's more boring. They're honestly rather closely connected, in fact, via a group of dragon trappers and other menaces to society called the Northern Alliance. Remember Drago's special insignia that I had mentioned back in Tier 2? The one that was branded onto Eret's chest and nearly Hiccup's face? Well, I lied to you a little bit. I'm sorry. This symbol doesn't actually belong to Drago specifically. It is the crest of the Northern Alliance. Told you that would be important later. Your patience, my dear friend, has been rewarded. The Northern Alliance is a syndicate of dragon trappers, hunters, and warlords that lurks throughout and beyond the barbaric archipelago, running various scummy dealings, underground dragon fights, trafficking rings, hunting parties, etc. It's the Mafia, let's be frank here. It's the Viking Mafia. While I'm not certain who is truly the mob boss of the whole operation, we do know that both Grimmel and Drago were members of this alliance at one time or another. Drago even labeled himself as a quote-unquote dragon god, apparently. Yikes. Taking the wheel of the operation at one point. Other members of this alliance include the Warlords. Most prominent in this faction are Griselda the Grievous, Chagatai Khan, I have no idea if I pronounced that right or not, and Ragnar the Rock. These three specifically are the ones of whom Grimmel sought counsel from and alliance with over the course of How to Train Your Dragon 3. So to recap everything, yes, people are all connected to one another. When I made the Mafia connections, I was not joking. The villains' hierarchy in this show are akin to the Once Upon a Time family tree. They are all connected. It's kind of terrifying. Man, I hope that made sense. Anyway, conspiracy theory, done, kaput. Everybody out of the pool. Show's over. Tin Hut, let's go.
Bye-bye. 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 Bye-bye now. Bye.
This is the official end of your tour of Berg. I hope you had fun, I hope you learned something new. Thanks for joining me, and I hope to see you around again sometime. Hannah out. Good night, and Godspeed. Well, I can tell you've probably seen a couple of Marvel movies in your time. You're wise enough to know that just because the credits are rolling doesn't mean the movie's over. You see, while putting together this iceberg, I had several topics that I wanted to talk about that didn't really fit into any particular tier or were redundant compared to the other entries I had. So I decided to compile these goofs and gaffes into a bonus level. This is Outcast Island. Avatar: The Last Airbender connections. Hi there. Just gonna interject just for a second. This next section I talk about Avatar: The Last Airbender, as you have already heard. For some reason, I referred to it as its acronym a lot, because I had that written in my script, and instead of saying Avatar: The Last Airbender or Avatar, I decided, for some strange reason, to call it ATLA, as in the acronym, but pronounced as a word. I don't know why I did that. I'm not sure if that's correct or not. If it's not, please don't make fun of me. I'm sorry. I recorded this months ago and didn't realize I pronounced it that way until I went back and edited. So please forgive me. I don't feel like actually going back and re-recording the script, so I'm just going to put this little addendum here. I'm tired. I'm so sorry. While I was doing some of the research for this video, particularly for Tier 1, I noticed some connections to another one of my favorite shows, Avatar: The Last Airbender. The most obvious connection, at least to me, is Mae Whitman, the voice actress behind Heather in Dreamers Dragons and the voice of Katara in Atla. Alvin the Treacherous is voiced by Mark Hamill, the voice of Fire Lord Ozai in Atla. He's also the voice actor of the Joker in Batman the Animated Series. Oh, and he's Luke freaking Skywalker. Make of that what you will. And last but not least, Heather's brother Dagger shares a voice with Mako, a character from the Atlas spin-off sequel series, The Legend of Korra. Both characters are voiced by David Faustino. Other voice acting trivia. Obviously, voice acting is a business. The Atla connections aren't the only cool piece of VA trivia I have to offer regarding How to Train Your Dragon. Here's some more. The voice of Bucket, Thomas F. Wilson, is Biff Tannen from the Back to the Future trilogy. That blew my mind to find that out. Lucas Grabeel, the voice of Gustav, was a Disney Channel star. So was America Ferrera, Astrid's VA. Mae Whitman isn't just Heather and Katara, she's also Tinkerbell. And America Ferrera is the original VA of Fawn from the Disney Fairies movies. She only voices her in the first film, however. One of the actresses that replaces her for the role of Fawn, Angela Bartis, voices Astrid in most video game appearances of her character. David Tennant is the voice of Spitelout, Snotlout's father, in the movies and TV shows. He also voices a couple of other cameos in the third film, but Spitelout was not David Tennant's first exposure or point of involvement with this series. He is also the narrator for the audiobook productions of the book series. I've listened to a few of these audiobooks, and quite frankly, he does a phenomenal job. He makes every character's voice distinct, entertaining, and unique.
Standing in the middle of the room was a small girl with wild blonde hair and a ferocious expression. The girl drew her sword with a flourish. "Who are you? What are your names?" she demanded fiercely. "Who sent you? Where'd you come from?" "I am the venomous Vorpant, and my sting is as deadly as a black widow's spider. Even before this story begins, I have already stung one of the characters. I hope he's not your favourite."
James Arnold Taylor's most well-known contribution to the franchise is probably his work in the Netflix era of the TV show. He's the voice of Throck, the Defenders of the Wing himbo who's got a puppy love for Roughnut. But did you know he's also the voice of Hiccup? Okay, obviously not in any material like the shows or the short films, but in pretty much every video game appearance of that character. Anything from School of Dragons to the tie-ins to that weird new DreamWorks Mario Kart clone. Gotta be honest here, he does a decent job as a sound-alike. It is hard to find a good Jay Baruchel sound-alike where their voice doesn't come off as cringe, but James Arnold Taylor kind of gets it right. In games like the How to Train Your Dragon tie-in, the difference is almost unnoticeable in my opinion.
All right, we will smoke the competition. Attack!
And even in games like DreamWorks All-Star Kart Racing, it's not bad. It's not perfect.
Cool. All right! Watch it, Merkwan! Stop that! Wow, will you look at that? I won!
But it's not bad. Okay, I'm almost done talking about VA trivia. Give me one more entry and I promise I will shut up about it. Charlie and Lola / Maisie and Clementine Cowell. Alright, I'm really gonna look like a conspiracy theorist. Now put that board away. Does anybody remember Charlie and Lola? The kind of chill British cartoon from the 2000s. It aired on Playhouse Disney here in the US when I was really young, and I watched it quite a bit. Definitely a childhood favorite. So imagine my surprise when I found out it had a How to Train Your Dragon connection. Two of the three young voice actresses for Lola were sisters, named Maisie and Clementine Cowell. These little girls were the daughters of author Cressida Cowell. So yeah, in a weird way, Charlie and Lola is now somewhat linked to How to Train Your Dragon. That blew my mind to learn about, and I really kind of wanted to share it. Apparently, the two girls were cast because their mother was friends with the author of the original Charlie and Lola books, Lauren Child. Was this Iceberg all an elaborate excuse to drop that super niche and obscure piece of information for the public to know about? I'll never tell. Hiccup and Vigo in an alternate dimension. Hey, you ever wonder what Hiccup and Vigo would be like in an alternate universe? Roll film!
Enough, you idiot. Watch the door. You... Oh, no! Hello, Dave. So, Dave. Oh, man. I'm going to kill you. Oh, yes. Right here in this dismal bathroom. It's not very classy, but there you go. Oh, sweetheart. You've put your faith in the wrong man. Tell me, have you ever been in love? Yeah, you're in love right now. I can see it in your eyes. No, don't deny it. I wonder what would happen if you lost her. Shut up. You'd be no better than the rest of us.
How to Train Your Dragon Lost Media, early CN Comics, and TJ Miller Hidden World Audio. Y'all, I'm a Lost Media geek. The hunt for missing things is fascinating to me, and I like to peruse the Lost Media Wiki from time to time to see updates on my favorite topics or find new ones to get invested in. While I was researching this video, take a swig of your preferred non-alcoholic beverage for every time I've said that so far, I found a topic on the Lost Media Wiki that related to the third How to Train Your Dragon film. However, I didn't really give it a second thought, and quite frankly, I still don't find it all that interesting, but I thought I'd share it nonetheless. To make a long story short, TJ Miller, the voice of Tough Nut pre How to Train Your Dragon 3, was fired and his lines redubbed partway through production on The Hidden World. I'm not going to discuss the reason why he was let go from the project here, because the topic is a little bit more PG-13 than PG, so if you'd like to do that, I'd advise to look it up on your own. At The original TJ Miller audio is currently being searched for by some members of the lost media community. Honestly, this is all just my opinion, but I don't really understand why, other than for the sake of completion. I don't really personally think it would add to the film in any way or make any difference, in my opinion. It's crap to begin with. I don't think his audio would have improved it. And it most likely isn't even lost, just buried in DreamWorks archives. I'm sure it exists, and that's found enough for me, at least in this case. But that wasn't the last bit of lost media I ended up digging up. Pop quiz. Remember the CN era run of comics I mentioned earlier? What? You mean you weren't taking notes the whole time? Well, there was an early version of this series that had been commissioned over a year before the Titan comics were released. In 2012, DreamWorks partnered with a publishing company called Ape Entertainment to produce 3 two-issue volumes of comics based on writers of Berg. The production of these comics was delayed several times due to corporate shakeups within Ape Entertainment, and the project was ultimately scrapped by early 2014. At the time, only 2 of the 6 proposed issues had been put into production and completed. After these comics' cancellation, the Ape Entertainment version was actually acquired by Titan Comics, once the latter agreed to pick the series up. The Ape issues are currently in their archives. They have not been made public as of yet, but there have been some teases by Titan Comics as that being a possibility for the future. While the stories were never released, some information about their plots has been made available. Let me just read the blurb for the first volume here, it was too good not to share. Buckle up for a high-flying adventure as the cast of DreamWorks Animation's blockbuster film How to Train Your Dragon soars into comic book stores, just in time for the hit animated series on Cartoon Network. In this amazing first issue, a dragon feud erupts when Toothless accidentally swallows a tiny terrible terror, causing its siblings to vow a dragon vendetta against him. Can even a fearsome Night Fury fend off 2,000 terrible terrors? And when the conflict spills into Berk, can Hiccup keep the dragons from destroying the entire village? I'm sure there's plenty more lost media from the How to Train Your Dragon franchise. There's gotta be scrapped episodes, deleted scenes, and TV promos that have fallen through the cracks of time, but for now, we'll have to leave it here. DreamWorks Dragons aired on the Disney Channel in Japan. Television and streaming is an international business. Part of producing media includes marketing it in other countries and securing overseas licenses for distribution. Very businessy stuff. Big brain. Too much for me to handle. As a result of these shaking of hands between corporations, certain productions can end up being distributed by completely different companies internationally than they would be in their home country. For example, in Spain, The Fairly Odd Parents, a Nickelodeon staple here in the US, aired on a channel known as Jetix due to its distribution deals made for the show in that region. Even stranger, the Jetix brand was eventually absorbed by the Walt Disney Company and turned into what we now know as Disney XD. What version of Earth did we step into? Now I know you're wondering, why are we talking about The Fairly Odd Parents? This is the How to Train Your Dragon iceberg, not the Nickelodeon iceberg. We're getting there, I promise. On the topic of international distribution deals that make me scratch my head, allow me to introduce Disney Channel Japan. You see, unlike the Disney Channel here in the States, most international versions of the cable network are provided in partnership with other companies. As another example, Disney Channel Canada, as well as its French language counterpart, La Chaîne Disney, forgive me for that butchering of the pronunciation there, is operated by a company called Chorus Entertainment under license from the Walt Disney Company. Disney only owns these channels in part, and because of this, a lot of non-Disney programming, namely programming from Chorus-owned studios like Nelvana Productions, airs alongside the Disney-produced shows that the network is known for. This is a pretty similar situation worldwide. Disney often licenses its brand to other television providers depending on the region. In Japanese markets, the Disney Channel, or Disney Channel, is operated by Disney-branded television in partnership with cable providers such as Sky Perfect TV. This version of the channel airs quite a bit of non-Disney programming, things like Miraculous Ladybug and Curious George, as well as anime like Fruits Basket and Doraemon, to name a few. Some of this acquired programming, oddly enough, includes many DreamWorks television productions. This includes DreamWorks Dragons. I know it's pretty uninteresting in the broad scheme of things. This show aired on Disney Channel in Japan, big whoop. But I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to television, and especially overseas TV. So I thought, kakkoi! Is anybody still left? Yay! Thank you for making it to the end of the video. I appreciate you so much. You're amazing. A huge shout out to my script readers, Raleigh II of America, New Orca, Der Chronobinator, and Nie. You guys are amazing, and I couldn't have done this without you. Thank you so very much. And of course, let me thank the most important person to help me out on this video, you! Thank you so much for watching and for showing that my crazy little interests actually interested somebody else too. This is hopefully the first of many videos to come on this channel, and I'm hoping to improve my production quality with more content to come. If you like this video, you are more than welcome to subscribe and be among the first to join the Timberjack pack. I don't have a content schedule as of yet. I do have a full-time job as well as some other commitments, and my channel really is just a hobby. But I've got some more bouts of me yapping in the works. So I hope you stick around. Remember to keep it clean and kind in the comments, and I'll see you all later. God bless you and have an awesome day.